Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan on this Thursday. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. How's Doug today?
Pretty good. How are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah. A little swinging temperatures back and forth. Yeah, almost spring-like today and tomorrow, and then all of a sudden back down.
I know. I got to thinking, this afternoon's going to be a great afternoon to kind of finish up a little of those places that have a little bit of ice, that I can't get rid of. But by Friday night, that ice will be solid again.
Yeah. Friday might be a good day for some melting. 50s tomorrow. But busy week this week in Beatrice around the City Auditorium and the City Building with the Mudecas tournament going on. And yesterday was a break for the games, but it's back in action today and kind of tests just how much public parking you have around that area there.
It does. It really does, But I think about, it's not. It's less farther to walk than if you go to a Husker game.
Exactly.
So
that's true.
That is one of the good things that I keep thinking about. And, I think we're glad to have Mudecas tournament here. It's been, a long-running tournament.
Yeah.
And
isn't it like the oldest tournament in the state? Or it's got to be in the top 3, I'm sure. I think.
I believe, if I heard right, it's the oldest continuously running tournament in the western half of the United States.
Wow.
So if that's the case, good job for them. And they do play quality ball, and I think as I've watched it over the years, we used to host some of those games out at the college before athletics and COVID kind of got in the way. And it was always interesting because for 2 or 3 years you'd see it just like typically you'd see one school really dominating, and then all of a sudden you've got another school that dominates, and then that'll flip-flop over the years. So, I think it's been a good thing, and it's a good thing for the students, and it's a great thing for the community.
Bring some visitors in. If you have time between games, go do a little shopping, eat at a restaurant, or have a good time, and then go back to the next game coming up.
Exactly.
So, one thing about it this year, too, you got kind of a newer look to the floor. It's a little lighter. We all remember the deeper orange floor that we all kind of grew up with. You remember those days you had like one type of floor, and that was it. Now you got all kinds of color combinations, logos, and things like that, and looks pretty nice.
Yes. I think that's, the floors wear out, and they need resurfaced, and I think when it was resurfaced, they did a really good job. And, the nice thing about the City Auditorium, we're able to do it kind of in what you would call the floor resurfacing periods of time off season. So they did a nice job for a good fee, and, now we'll go for another number of years for the Mudecas tournament.
Got new scoreboards, and I kind of like the logo at the end on the mats, too, about home of the Mudecas tournament. Has a nice look to it.
It does. It really does.
Calls attention to a long-standing tradition down there.
And, I think we talked about it last show. It's amazing how when the fire department moved out and you look for uses for those spaces, I like it a little bit to when you clean your garage. It doesn't take long to fill up the empty space. And we have the courts that are used for Mudecas. You've got the courts that now with the lines are also used for wintertime pickleball. And then you've got the youth center that's in there, and you've got the food pantry that's in there. Main Street's offices are in there. Our IT offices and then our city codes offices are all in there. So, we quickly found a way to fill the space in a very positive, efficient way.
Yeah. And, there's always that kind of worry that you won't be able to do that because you mentioned, like, when you moved the fire department out, that cleared up a whole lot of space. But also at one time, the city clerk treasurer offices was over there, too, in the auditorium. And then, of course, it moved across the street to the new city headquarters now. So you've had other buildings pulling on that space, but now it's probably the most used it's ever been, pretty much. Or?
I would say it's pretty close. Yeah. It really has, and it's worked real well. And all kidding aside, there is public parking not very far away. You got the one lot there across from City Hall, and you've got a couple other lots downtown. Plus, you've got a number of street side parking.
Yeah. Someone has asked me, and not just one person, but others, periodically in the past on that whole parking issue, the area that is west of the auditorium, not the current parking area where the recycling things are, But then next, down into where the trail is there ever been a look at saying, hey, if you needed additional parking, would that be an area to put another hard surface to lot?
I think it's one of those things you can take a look at. I think, the question you have to ask yourself is how much use is it going to get?
Yeah.
Is it
all year round, too?
Is it one of those things that you have the major parking situation is for the Medecus and nothing else? Is that a good investment or not? But it is something that is certainly open to look at.
Yeah. I was thinking with the project on Ella, between 2nd and 3rd there that you're going to be doing is, I don't know if that opens up more of a possibility there. That's more of a just reworking the traffic flow for that area, though.
Well, reworking the traffic flow and also trying to put in some design work that might be something that we can replicate as we redo the downtown with the moving of the highway. So I think it's a great proving ground for us to see how it looks.
Yeah. Beatrice Board of Public Works met on Wednesday. Had a few items on there, not a huge agenda, but I noticed the final payment on the 33rd and Lincoln work this past year is going before the City Council, and we mentioned that before. That really turned out nicely.
It did. They did it very efficiently. They did it quickly. And they did a really good job. And if I'm not mistaken, it came in at bid or just a little bit under, which always is a positive. And so I think we're very happy with Constructors. We always have been, but I just think that was a really, really good project that really got done in a time frame that I don't think anybody was thinking.
Yeah, that was pretty remarkable because at the start of that, weren't you talking well into this year and maybe even into summer, late summer, before things could, maybe around the time of the next school year or something, that things could be done?
I think that was the original estimate was we're thinking we're going to get so and so much done, and then, of course, the way the weather held up, it would have been different, but we were expecting a little bit more weather to move in. They got done at the end of October. We were hoping that they could maybe get most of it done through December and then come back, in the spring and finish it up. But hey, it looks good. If you drive it, it's just got a complete different look than that old blacktop that used to be a county road.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see a picture of it now, side by side, where it's it wouldn't look like the same neighborhood. There.
No,
that's for sure.
It would not.
And with the new school, of course.
Yep.
Next up, then, is what 25th to 27th on
Correct.
Lincoln Street.
Correct.
What's the what are you looking at timetable there? Or is it...
Design, I think, is 90% complete, and so I would say by the end of the month, we're hoping that. We'll have the plans that we can put out for bid, and hopefully the bids will be favorable, and we'll get that done sometime spring, summer.
Is that going to be concrete, too?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Then you have the whole Lincoln corridor maybe in the future,
Correct.
Picking off a project or two.
That's right. That's probably a little longer term. Again, financially, we're trying to be as responsible as we can, but we also have the plans to get it done, and that's good.
Yeah. A couple other things, recommendation on bids for armor coating projects and asphalt sealing. With all the major work that's been going on, is that those two aspects, are that somewhat reduced this year, or how much will you be able to accomplish in those two things?
Well, I think both of them, we'll get a number of projects done. One of the things about streets, we've got a lot of them. And when you look at all the number of miles that we have, there's always going to be streets that need to be under repair and work on. I think the armor coating came in at a pretty good price. I think the other bid, I think we'll have to do a little bit of work ourselves to get the price in there. But I think you're looking at about, look at the two bids, you're looking at $150,000 to $200,000.
One of them was about $64,065,
and
the
one
other
was
$85,000.
So you're right at that $150,000 mark. But if you think about it, the armor coating and the asphalt sealing are ways to really bring a road back up to the standard without having to do the reconstruction project. So it's just like anything else. Those products have improved over the years, which can extend the life of an asphalt road.
Yeah. One of the other things mentioned yesterday was the potential, and this isn't included in the two bids, but one of them was upgrading the road into Hannibal Park, which is Hannibal Park powered by Pinnacle Bank now.
Yes.
I think it's,
yes. We had from a naming convention, we had a very good fundraising project.
Yeah.
And there is money there probably in that renaming project fund to do that. One of the things that always makes sense is you can line up projects when the contractor is there. You get a better rate because they don't have to remobilize, and mobilization is part of the cost, of course, to redo streets, and so we're trying to line that up so we can get that in the works as well. So you've got everything that you can get done. I think that's a mill and overlay, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and I think they're trying to get that lined up so they can get that done as well while the people are already here.
Got to also avoid the high school softball seasons and plus all the softball tournaments and things that come to town and nighttime leagues. And who knows, before long, we'll all be thinking about that, too.
Well, yeah, when you think about, the Medecus tournament, but if you think about, Hannibal Park, it's a pretty good traffic generator for visitors, and it adds a lot to our community, and we're going to continue to make it strong, and we want to thank all of the folks that have helped us with naming rights, including Pinnacle Bank, and it's just a great place for the city of Beatrice.
Yeah. Is this the year that they undertake the additional field where the parking in the center is now, or I can't remember what if that's done this year or later in the year, or
I'll have to double check, but I know it's
been a while since we've heard anything about that.
It's at least on the drawing board, yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right. A couple other things from the Board of Public Works meeting. A couple of engineering agreements. One is for inspection of bridges that you own in town or big box culverts. I want to focus on the other one, though, having a little bit of trouble with equipment that controls the level of pumping from a transmission line.
Yes, so in the water department. Yeah. And, we have a couple of pumps that aren't working as efficiently as they should, and they're new. And we believe they're under warranty, and we're going to have, I believe it was Olson Associates, help us out a little bit and make sure the design is right and what some of the issues might be, so we can go back to the company since they're under warranty and say, hey, here's what we've done, and it looks like it's the pumps versus the design.
Yeah. Is that on that newest transmission line that was part of the SRF loan out, the state loan, the interest-free loan?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was on the latest one installed.
Yeah. It probably is. Yeah. My guess would be, since it's relatively new.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody's using these letters to describe what equipment. And I'm glad that Darren asked what is, because I was going to ask what that was. So.
Yeah, what was it? Variable...
something or another.
Yeah.
Controls the rate of flow or pumping or whatever.
We are a world of acronyms.
Yeah. Schools are famous for that. Every time I go to a school board meeting, I'm like, now what do those letters mean? It's
exactly.
Kind of one of those things. So.
And sometimes during a city council meeting, those acronyms, the names and the acronyms are hard to read. Yeah. That's one of the things that, I look at the agenda, especially when there's just routine consent agenda items, and you get down to S. Yeah. I'm out of breath.
Oh, quick thing, just before we take a break here, that I was asking now that came to mind. Beatrice School District opting to go to 6 p.m. start meetings coming up here, both work sessions and their regular once-a-month meeting. I know you've kind of thought about that a little bit. Is that something where you might continue to follow up on whether or not that's a possibility for the city?
Something that I think we'll consider. Yeah. I'm not sure how long the city council's met at 7, but I think that's something that we can always take a look at. 7 seems to work out pretty well. I think when we're out with the council members, I think it would be a discussion. And, the main thing that I think about is we want to make sure that all council members can get there.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why it's been at 7. And, council members change. And if, I guess the twofold of that is, I can't think about just these 2 years because, in 2 years, the election cycle is going to start, and we may have somebody that can't get there until 7. So if you change it to 6 now and then you change it to 7, I think you're kind of sending a wrong signal to the community of when it is. Yeah. Now, I think with the school board, they've got it figured out that works out pretty well for them, and that's good. Personally, I'd love to start at 6, because it just gets you home earlier, but I think we have to think long term, and so I think it's a low priority on us at this point, but it's something that we'll consider.
In recent years, it seems like you don't have overly lengthy council meetings. I can think of a few that have gone to 8:30 or 9,
Right.
maybe, but
Right.
not like the days of old when there used to be some go to 11 or 11:30 at night. And I'm kind of hoping those days don't return, because they say the quality of decision making erodes the later on in the the evening.
Well, you know, and it's just not, you know, there. I remember, you know, again, coming from the educational side of life, there is an attention span
Yeah.
that people have. And when you get past that attention span, it's hard to get quality,
Yeah.
either learning or quality decisions to be made.
Even the debate might get a little
Yeah,
off.
it can be.
Offline. We're with Mayor Bob Morgan today on Ask the Mayor. We'll have more in a moment. Monday night, right before the regular part of the city council meeting, you have a work session. We talked about this before, where it's going to focus on kind of the two-sided, or the two parts of waste programs that you have. One is the landfill itself, and the other is Midwest Area Refuse Solutions. Kind of delineate the roles and everything.
I think delineate the roles, be transparent of what it's going to cost us to develop the landfill, and how Boswell works and how Mars works, and how they are completely separate, but there is a partnership there. And, you know, one of the things you think about is when you build a landfill, and this organization is revenue generating, so we don't want to put that burden on the taxpayers. So it will be a burden on the Boswell to make the money, the landfill fees, in order to pay for the bond. You know, I think right now we're going through the bond rating process. Don't have that back yet, but with a strong financial position that the city's in, I expect that bond rating to be somewhere between A and AA, which, you know, if you think between A and AA, what that really does is drive down the interest rate, because you're a more secured position based on your financial position that, you know, Boswell's had in the past, and the city and the county. So, you know, I'm excited to see what that bond rating is, and I'm hoping that it's, you know, I hope for the AA, of course, because you know, if you're talking about $13 million, if it's 5% or 4%, that can make a significant difference.
Yeah. And it's not just planning for a new landfill. You have to also have set aside money for closure of the old one, too.
But we have been putting money away there.
We have been doing that.
Yeah, there's a post-closure fund that is required. And so, now, is it enough? I don't know. But I think it is. I think, you know, but there is you're right, because, you know, people may not know, once we close that site, we have to monitor that site for 30 years, I believe. And so there's a post-closure fund that is required that you set up. So just like this one, you know, once we open up the new one, there will be some money that's funneled into a post-closure fund way down the road of 70 years. And so that helps offset that. Yeah.
On the Mars end of it, back when you tried this move of going to city operated instead of taking, because the bids are really high to go the other direction. Looking back at it now, from a standpoint of having enough revenue to operate it without having to squeeze too tightly, you know, make cuts or get by on a shoestring, has it worked out pretty well?
It has worked out very, very well. Again, Mars is a revenue-generating operation, so we don't use any taxpayer money for it. But yes, it has been very, very successful. We continue to expand, which also helps then feed the landfill. And, you know, I always occasionally take a look a little bit of some of the area garbage rates comparatively, and we definitely are one of the lowest cost for, I would say, I know our region, if not the state.
Yeah. Two of the communities, too, you most recently added this past year were Philly and Crab Orchard area.
Right.
Any others on the horizon that might be coming up soon, or have you heard anything about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know what's been interesting with both of those, and I think Odell may have, I don't know who they're going to go with, but now people are reaching out for us to at least put in a bid.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that is the good job that we do. And I think about, you know, when we were, you know, one of the things that we want to make sure is we give people time off for the holidays, for Christmas. But if you think about it, you still got your garbage picked up. It was a day later or a day earlier, but they work pretty hard and pretty efficiently. And I still kind of think it's fun to watch the truck.
Yeah, really. It is kind of interesting to watch how those things operate. And
it really
takes for the employees that operate them. I'm sure when they went into it, they thought, "Oh, how's this going to be?" And now they're probably old pros that know how to do this with a blindfold on or whatever they have to. So.
They're very, very good. And you know what? I really, really appreciate the guys that we have driving because, there are times that I've seen that just out of circumstance, the trash can doesn't quite get set back right up. And they watch that, they get out, and they set it up for the people. And, one of the services that we provide for a very nominal fee is for people, if they can't wheel the big trash can down, I think it's like, I don't know. Better not say the price, but it's pretty relatively inexpensive. They'll stop and roll it down, dump it, and put it back in place.
Okay. Also, before we take a break here on that work session, second part of that, you're looking at committee structure there?
Well, I think there's
membership on committees.
We're going to change some committee members around, and we're also, I think, going to add a couple of committees. And so probably won't be much discussion there other than just sharing who's on what committee.
I see. What are the new ones you're looking at?
Well, one of the areas that I think we'll be looking at is has come up several times is the duck pond. I think there's some stuff there. I'm trying to think what the other one was.
Might have to change the duck pond to the retention pond.
It may be retention pond, but people know it as the duck pond. The duck pond.
Which unfortunately sometimes was fed during flooding over there.
And, and I know another one that, I think we'll probably put in place is the water park. Water park's doing great. We're not going to build a new water park today, but it won't be long in that water park in 2028 or 2029 is going to have a strong look. And so why not start studying that now?
It's not the new water park forever.
It's not.
It's kind of like the library. We always thought that as a new one, and it's been there several years too.
It has. It has. So, we know that is an economic driver for the community. And, as I've said way too many times, we're trying to set things up for the future, not just today.
Back to wrap up, Ask the Mayor in just a moment. About 4 minutes left on Ask the Mayor today with Mayor Bob Morgan. A couple of things to maybe just quickly touch on. The Dempster project, of course, looming out there. I know you're trying for a Brownfields grant on that that would assist in initial stages of that. Have you heard anything update on that?
Have not heard an update on that. I know that we're still working on buying one of the two parcels that we don't own, and I think that's going to come to fruition here pretty shortly. And to back up about the Brownfield application, I think one of the things about it is since we don't own two of the parcels, we can't really put that in the application. And at first that kind of sounds like, well, that's not a good deal, but it really is probably a pretty good deal because as we move forward then and get the other parcels, then we can apply for another Brownfield grant to take care of those. So we'll be able to put those two in two sessions, and we hope that both of those will come to fruition.
What's a huge project? You would think it would draw some interest from the EPA in terms of getting this cleaned up. So.
I think we can make a pretty good case that there is some not very good soil underneath that concrete floor.
Okay. One thing to just maybe mention coming up, not too distant future, you have a new 2-year budget. You went to biennial budgeting a few years back, and you're getting to that point in time. It's budget formation time again.
We are. We will be starting that. Well, I shouldn't say we will be starting. I think Hannah and Tobias and the department heads have already started working on what they see they need for the next 2 years. As a matter of fact, I think, is it last year or the year before, I think department heads were challenged with the task to think now through 8 years out. What are you going to need? What are your needs? And those will change. It's just kind of like anything you take a look at. Now they're looking at what's the most important in these 2 years, but they also will then have kind of a rolling plan of where they'd like to be. Again, setting things up for the future, so where you need. And technology will change, and some of those things will drop off the list. But I know right now they're working on their budgets. And so you'll see them working on that, and I'll probably do something to get a little bit of a feel for what council members are thinking as well. So when we get to the end of July or August, we're ready to really have a good work session on the budget.
Yeah. Costs of equipment, fire truck we were mentioning before, almost a $1 million thing.
Yep.
Water department, we were hearing yesterday, just got a vac truck, I think, didn't they?
Right, they did.
And they don't give those away either.
No, I know those are north of at least $250,000.
Wow.
I know that the electric companies had a couple of their big boom trucks on hold, ordered, but with the supply
problems and
I was thinking that if I remember right, those are about $750,000.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you think, wow, for $750,000, you could probably got every option in the world, or for an $800,000 fire truck.
That's the basic vehicle, huh?
It's the basic vehicle plus what is really definitely needed. It's not bells and whistles and frills. Which it's just like anything when you go buy a car.
Yeah, you can go as expensive as you want, but then you go, maybe not. Maybe I don't need that.
Do I really need that?
Yeah.
So, but when you think about it, those a perfect example. The fire truck that we're going to replace is a pumper truck, and it's 30 years old, and it's been reworked a number of times, but it's time that we take it out of service and get a new one. And I think one of the things that I thought about during the wildfires is I think there was some conversations about some budget cutting that happened and lowered their response. And one of the things we want to make sure is that when that pumper truck pulls up to your house, it works.
Yeah.
And so there comes a time that we need to take a look at public safety as priority number one.